Hey friends, this is Malke Asaad, a plastic surgery resident, and in this video I'm gonna share with you 5 mistakes that many medical students make when preparing for the Step 1 exam. The first and most common mistake that I see so many medical students make when they're preparing for their Step 1 exam is having so many resources. Whenever they start preparing for their Step 1 exam, they go and look on the internet for experiences of those who got to 50s, to 60s, and to 70s, and they make a huge list of all the resources, the books, question banks they're prepared from, and then they end up with materials that probably need 4 to 5 years to finish. Always remember that your Step 1 score is only one factor in your application, and soon in a few months it's gonna be pass-fail, so you have to choose very wisely the materials that you'll be preparing from. My recommendation is to follow advice of 1 or 2 people, and that's it. Don't go and look for 100 experiences and gather all the resources that these people prepared from. Just stick with 1 or 2, make your own list. Try the resources. You can try a few pages, maybe a chapter, see if this book is working for you, if this is style that you like to study from. Some books are more images oriented, some are more text oriented. So it depends on your learning style. But again, my recommendation is follow the advice of 1 or 2 people, make your own list, try it, and then stick with it. It's rather best to study from few resources that you can focus on rather than get lost with so many resources and not be able to concentrate on any of them. Always remember that these resources are very similar, and although one book might be 1 or 2% better than the other, being lost and confused between all these resources is gonna hurt you way more than studying from the best book versus the second best. The second mistake that I see medical students make when they're preparing for their Step 1 is using first aid as a learning tool or a book to start learning from. This is a huge mistake because first aid is a review book. It has all the high-yield concepts without explaining the background or the information behind these concepts. So you have already to be on a higher level than somebody who's just starting to learn medicine. For example, if you have a solid background of the topics tested on Step 1 from your medical school, you can start with first aid because you already understand the concepts, you know the background behind this information. But if you studied these materials long time ago or you did not focus on these materials during your school, it's best to study with other resources such as Kaplan books, Pathoma, Golden, or any other resources that can help you understand the concepts, and then go to the second stage of your preparation using a review book such as first aid. The third mistake is related to UWorld. And this is one I see commonly among medical students who are preparing for their Step 1. They start using UWorld late in their preparation, and they use so much time of their preparation to study books and first aid, and they keep a question bank like UWorld till the end of the preparation. This is a huge mistake because you want to start learning the exam style, how the questions will be asked, how to modify your learning style and learning tools to fit the exam style, which is in the form of a question bank. So start a question bank like UWorld early in your preparation, maybe in the second stage after you build your basis and understand the concepts behind the Step 1 materials, and use UWorld as a learning tool, not as an assessment tool. I see many medical students focus too much on their percentages of how many questions they got right or wrong, or they skip the answers that they answer correctly and they only focus on the ones they got wrong. This is, in my opinion, a huge mistake. You should learn from the questions that you get right. Sometimes there are extra information that you might find during the explanation of the question. Sometimes you learn more from the explanation of the wrong choices rather than the correct one. For example, if you were solving a question from UWorld and you were not sure whether answer A or answer B is the correct one, when you go and read the explanation, learn why B is wrong and why A is correct, because this can help you in thinking what the differential is, when to exclude certain answers, when certain answers are correct, and this is extremely helpful in your real exam in eliminating wrong choices and choosing the right one. And before I move to the fourth mistake, my recommendation when you're solving UWorld is to solve it like you were doing a real exam. So do one block of 40 questions instead of doing the tutor mode, because that will train you better for the real exam. And now moving on to the fourth mistake, which is related to assessment tools. A common mistake that I see students make when they use assessment tools is that they get the percentage of the questions they got right and they got wrong, and they move on. They don't look at the wrong questions. They don't see why these were wrong. For example, did they have a weakness in certain subject or certain system? were these questions that they got wrong related to not knowing the information? So do they need to study more in order to get the question right? Were these things that they studied but they forgot and they need to review it? Or they knew already the information but they needed to think differently about the question? Analyzing why you got the questions wrong is extremely important in modifying your learning style and getting a higher score next time. That's why you need to start using assessment tools early in your preparation. I see many medical students feel afraid or concerned to do an assessment tool early in their preparation. You don't have to feel afraid. This is not the real exam. This is just a mock exam. And the purpose of these exams is to help you improve. It's not just, am I ready for the exam or not? The purpose of assessment tools is to help you improve. That's why you need to start them early, modify your learning style, your focus based on the weaknesses you find from your wrong answers. And don't be concerned that you'll run out of assessment tools. There are so many MBMEs, UL self-assessment, a sample. So use maybe one after the first stage before you start first aid and UL. Use one after your first round, maybe another one after your second round. So distribute these assessment tools along your study period and modify your learning style and your learning focus based on the feedback you get from these assessment tools. And the fifth mistake I want to talk about today is related to reviewing. If you're one of those people who forgets the information after they read it one time, which is like most people do, you need to create a structure of reviewing. Because the step 1 materials are extremely big, you have 3,400 questions of UL, you have so many books, you have first aid, you need to create a structure of reviewing so you don't have to review the whole question bank or the whole book after you read it one time. I made a detailed video on how to take notes for the USMLE exams, and you can check it in the cards above or the description below. But in summary, you have to create an efficient way that would allow you to review the information, the big number of pages, question banks, so you don't spend hours and hours of writing down notes instead of studying. Maybe use an electronic version of a notebook. So instead of having to write down the information, you copy paste into a Word file or into the notebook of UL itself. Do flashcards. These are good for the act of retrieval because it allows you to search for the information before you read it, and it's more efficient than writing down notes. Other strategies include highlighting, underlining, bolding on the book itself or on the online version of it, and flagging certain questions so you review a certain number of questions, maybe 400 or 500 questions instead of reviewing the whole question bank. These are just tips, but at the end of the day, you have to find your own way, the way that makes you feel comfortable, be able to review the material in an efficient manner. So to summarize, don't get overwhelmed with the number of resources or the experiences that you read online. Choose a specific number of resources that fits your timeline and stick with it. Don't use first aid as a learning tool. Use other resources to help you understand the concepts of the step 1 materials, which could be your school materials, and then use first aid as a review book. Use a question bank like UWorld early in your preparation and use it as a learning tool, not as an assessment tool. So read the explanations, see why the question is right, why certain answers are wrong, because that will help you learn the most from this useful resource. And for assessment tools, use them early in your preparation, distribute them along the study period, and learn from your mistakes, because that will help you know where your weakness is so you can adjust your learning style, your learning strategy, your focus, so you can improve your score next time. And finally, create a structure of reviewing so you don't have to review the whole material after your first round. This could be in the form of flashcards, tagged questions, electronic version of a notebook, and try to minimize the number of pages you have to write as notes. I hope this video helps you avoid common mistakes encountered during the step 1 preparation. If you find any value in this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell sign so you get notified whenever I post future videos about the USMLE examinations or the match process. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, or feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter at Malke Asaad, my Facebook page Malke Asaad MD. Also make sure to check out my website and have a look at the blog, which has very useful resources if you're preparing for the USMLE exams or you're going through the match process, and have a look at the services I provide for future applicants. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and see you in future videos.